Everyone. Thank you for joining us at the February 17th meeting of the Hyde Park Planning Board. Let me first note that this meeting is being conducted under the Executive Order 202.92 by Governor Andrew Cuomo, which allows public officers to meet virtually as long as we make accommodations to the public for viewing, which our town board has. Let me next confirm that each board member is either alone or not under anyone's influence as to how you might vote or discuss tonight. Ms. Weiser?
I am alone.
Ms. Wasser?
I am alone.
Mr. Pickett?
I am alone.
Mr. Oliver?
I am alone.
Ms. DiNapoli?
I'm alone.
And Vice Chair Dexter?
I'm alone.
Thank you. Please join me as we salute the American flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I don't believe Mr. Will is here for the first item on the agenda, so the chair will switch the agenda slightly, and we'll start with Dollar General. As a reminder to everyone, this is located at proposed to be located, let me rephrase that, approved to be located at 1 East Dorsey Lane at the corner of East Dorsey and Route 9G. It's a gorgeous building. We've been sort of eager to see it start, and the applicants and their consultants have been involved with Dutchess County Department of Public Works over location of sidewalk. Ms. Mlajanowski is here and Mr. Fioretti, so let me turn it over to you guys tonight.
Thank you, Chairman. For the record, I'm Karen Mlajanowski from Bowler Engineering, here with Ken Fioretti from HSC Hyde Park LLC this evening to give a hopefully brief update on where we're at as far as approval conditions go for this proposed Dollar General at 1 East Dorsey Lane. We've been working diligently with County DPW on this, and we're down to one remaining comment and had a plan change that we wanted to present in front of the board this evening, as it does involve one of the approval conditions. Am I allowed to share my screen? Oh, there we are. Beat me to it. So the plan you see here is overlaid on our proposed grading plan, and essentially what we are doing in review with DPW is moving the sidewalk along the entire site frontage 5 feet back to be within the property rather than within the county and the DOT right-of-ways that are there. Before, it was kind of mostly in the right-of-way and then partly in the property, and we just feel it's cleaner to have the sidewalk completely in one or the other. DPW had a concern with getting the sidewalk too close to the roadway, as it's flush with the road and there's no curb there today. So we have moved the sidewalk back onto our property. It's only a 5-foot shift, so not a huge change, and we would certainly move back any street trees or landscaping that was proposed to be on the site side of the sidewalk that is proposed to be shifted. We had a call with DPW who's reviewed this, and they are okay with the change. So we understand that that would trigger the need for a public access agreement for the sidewalk for the entire length of the sidewalk, rather than just the area that was originally swinging back behind the guy wire on East Dorsey Lane in sort of that semicircular path area. So it is our intent to provide that public access agreement, which was one of the original conditions that are there for number 4 on our approval resolution. So that agreement would be extended for the entire property frontage where the sidewalk would be. So we wanted to get that in front of the board this evening as well and update you on that change.
Thank you, Karen. The reason we brought them in here tonight was so that everyone could take a look. I'm not sure if you can see a close-up of the detail where Ms. Mlajanowski called it a semicircle. But one of the issues that Tad and I had when we first looked at it was, instead of having a semicircle, I described it to Ms. Mlajanowski as having a flattened bell curve, so that it wasn't quite so severe if someone were going around in a wheelchair or with any kind of disability in terms of making it harder to access. There you go. It's right over to the bottom right. So if you look And I'll let Ms. Moss comment, but that was one of our comments. And I forgot that we'd already required a public access easement for the portion of the sidewalk that would not be in the DOT or DCDPW right of way. So maybe that we don't need to amend the site plan. We can just reword that condition, but I'll let Ms. Polidoro refer to that. Let me start with consultants. Mr. Sotero, any comments?
No.
Thank you. Ms. Moss?
I see that the semicircle around the pole, I think, has been widened. It doesn't look quite as sharp, but I was wondering if there could be, I forget what it's called, a reverse curve on the west side where it joins back to the straight. I forget,
Yeah.
Pete, what's inside and outside curve.
Well, you want to flatten it out a little bit is basically,
Yes.
basically saying, right?
And then the sidewalk where it starts to get close to the pipe that runs under the driveway near the building, as long as that grading isn't impacted or the quantity of that depressed area isn't reduced too much by the sidewalk grading. Those are the two things that I saw. Otherwise, moving the trees, I didn't see an issue with. I didn't see an issue really with moving the sidewalk, other than that the easement language would have to be changed to include the whole length of the sidewalk.
Well, that was a good point, Tad, about the pipe. I didn't, notice that. So Karen, maybe you just want to, shift that pipe a little bit just to give it a little more room between the sidewalk and the end section.
Certainly, we can update that grading
Yeah,
in that area.
Yeah.
Thank you. Ms. Polidoro, any comments?
It's true that the board has already required a public access easement along East Dorsey for land not within the right of way. So this would fit within that. So that is not an issue. But is the board still want to require site plan amendment?
If we could do this as an as-built, I think that would be easier. I mean, I appreciate the patience of the applicants trying to work their way through the county labyrinthine process. I mean, we approved this really a long time ago, and we're hoping to see construction start. Is it possible for us to reword the condition, Victoria?
The condition is fine. It doesn't need to be reworded because of how it was already worded, that anything outside of the public right of way needs a public access easement. My concern is just making sure that how this sidewalk is built is actually the right dimensions, because you don't like that sharpness right there.
Ms. Moss, do you have any comments on the process? Tad?
I'm sorry?
Would you be okay with submission of an as-built if they can soften or flatten the curve, semicircle down further in advance?
I could add a condition to the resolution requiring the zoning administrator to approve the sidewalk, what do you want to call it? Sidewalk jut out or sidewalk?
Bump out,
then-
jut out?
Yeah, and this way Tad would have to approve it before it's built.
I guess I'm okay with an as-built, but I didn't think that the plans were signed yet. So I thought that we were thinking about putting in just inserting a sheet.
Yeah, why don't we do that? Because they haven't been signed yet.
That is another way to solve this. Karen, does that sound?
It sounds like you would amend the resolution accepting this sheet number with a new revision date, maybe?
Yep, that's a great idea. I forgot that I hadn't signed these yet.
Or why don't we could do that, or all the plan sets are going to have to be amended to reflect the new layout. Why don't we just change the resolution to reflect the new plan date?
Because they're not signed yet. Yep. Karen, does that sound good to you?
That sounds perfect. Yeah, because I think that's exactly right. The sidewalk is shown on so many of the sheets that we'll just submit one clean set that all matches.
This, of course, assumes that the rest of the board is fine with this, and I haven't called any of them. I apologize, but I don't think they're going to have an issue. Let me start with our vice chair, Ms. Dexter, comments.
I have no issue. I like that solution to put the additional sheet in.
Thank you. Ms. DiNapoli?
Nothing more to add. I like the simpler version of how to resolve it.
Thank you. Mr. Oliver?
I have no issue with doing things as quickly and simple as possible for the applicant.
Thank you. Mr. Pickett?
Same as Mr. Oliver.
Ms. Wasser?
Ditto.
And Ms. Weiser?
I have nothing more to add. I agree with my colleagues.
Okay, we were like the seven dwarves here, all agreeing and agreeable. So, I think we have a path forward then, and it doesn't appear as though we'll need to do anything other than wait to see the new submission of plans, and you'll have to revise the public access easement. Then let me again say, on behalf of the town and the board, we appreciate your persistence with this application. I do know that it looks as though Dollar General and stores such as stores that carry the kind of inventory they do are one of the few that really are doing well during the COVID lockdown, because people still need groceries, items like that, et cetera. So it's nice to see that this will expand into our town still. Anybody have any other final comments?
Yeah, I just have one quick. Karen, as far as the sidewalk goes, once you change the CAD layer, and I'm not a CAD expert, but I believe once you change the CAD layer, doesn't it automatically appear on every drawing that layer is referenced?
It would, yes.
Okay, so really then all your drawings are going to be updated that show the sidewalk, not just one, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
And it may have to, it will likely change to show where the pipe is located underneath the driveway as well, it sounds
Right.
like to me.
Right. Okay,
So Pete,
thank you.
take a look at those to make sure you agree with that. And Karen, if you and Pete need to meet offline or exchange things offline, please do so without us.
Yeah. I mean, if you would, if you just want to send through a drawing before you make the number of sets, for signing, that's fine.
Sounds good.
So
Thank
thank
you.
you both for joining us. Mr. Fioretti, thank you for taking the time to join us tonight too. And you, Karen, it's good to see you both. Since it's been a while, Happy New Year, even though we're well into it now. And I
Happy
hope you're both
New Year.
staying safe and well. And we'll see you soon.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all very much. Have a good night.
Night.
And you.
Yes, Mr. Will is still not here. I don't see him. So let's go on to Bear Hollow Subdivision Road Bond. So as a reminder, this project, and Mr. Andros is here representing the applicant, not really applicant, the owner of the site. This project precedes both Ann and I. We're the longest serving on the board. I do remember when it was before the planning board. Mr. Quirici, I believe, had it at the time. So the new owner would like to get it moving. They already roughed out a lot of the road. This is a nice area of town, by the way, I think. These were all kind of large lots located off Haviland Road. In the meantime, they have the road bond lapsed. So we had an agreement between the applicants and our representative, Mr. Sotero, as to the amount, and the condition on our resolution is just that the form and the manner of execution be acceptable to the town attorney. Anybody want to add anything? Peter? Mr. Sotero, you want to add anything?
No, I don't know if Pete just wants to update anybody as far as I know he was working with the county health department to reinstate the septics, and I think Pete, that you resolved the DEC, right, as far as the permits go, reinstating permits.
Yes. Well, we have the application into DEC for the freshwater wetland permit, which also expired. And of course, knowing what we do about how things are at the DEC, we haven't even gotten back any notice of receipt or completion or incompletion yet. And that was, I think I did it in December. So it's, they have 30 days to respond, but that never happens. So we're working on that and in pretty good shape with the health department also. And I've made some submittals to TAD with regard to erosion sediment control, or the SPPP for the town. I think she's waiting on the bond though. She can chime in on that one.
Ms. Moss, any comments?
No, we'll work through it. We're getting there.
Okay. And Ms. Polidoro, you prepared a resolution. Do any of the board members have any questions or comments?
Michael, all I wanted to say is I think this was actually one of the first subdivisions that we approved when we came on.
Oh, you're right. It was, they said it was already done, that we really, we shouldn't be
Most of the
doing
work had
anything
been
with it.
done, yes.
That's right. You're exactly right. I forgot about that. We did approve it. But it was, so you're right. We came at the very tail end of it. So at any rate, if there are no other questions, then I believe Ms. Wasser will introduce the resolution.
Yes, let me just, I'll read it off. Is it going to be up on the screen? Yes, here it comes. Great. Okay, no, just want to know. All right. Resolution setting bond amount, Bear Hollow subdivision, February 17th, 2021. Resolution 2020-23. Whereas. Now therefore be it resolved that the Planning Board of the Town of Hyde Park hereby sets the amount of the required performance guarantee for the construction of Bear Hollow Lane at $160,000 in form, sufficiency, and manner of execution acceptable to the town board and town attorney.
Seconded.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand and signify by saying aye.
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 Any nays or abstentions? There being none, carries unanimously. Thank you. Mr. Andres, good to see you, and good luck as you continue
Thank
forward
you.
with this application, and particularly with the DEC.
Thank you, and have a good evening.
Thank you. And Mr. Will has joined us. Thank you, Ms. Whitman, for contacting him. I believe he thought maybe we started at 7 o'clock, and I apologize. We moved it up to 6, I think, a couple of years ago. So that was our standard meeting time there beforehand. So Mr. Will is here to represent Mr. DODIC. I believe it's Mr. DODIC. This is located at 4305 Albany Post Road. This has been an office down below, a commercial use on the bottom floor, and a residential apartment on the top floor. And Mr. Will has been assiduously working to make sure that this could become a two-family. The zoning was changed so that now this is allowed in this district. More importantly, it doesn't quite have the right density, so they're going before the Zoning Board of Appeals for a density variance, and that public hearing has been set for a week from today on February 24th. This is most of the board's first time to see the application, so Mr. Will, let me turn it over to you.
Thank you, and my apologies for delaying your meeting.
You didn't delay. We got to other business first.
Good. All right. I see Peter Sotero there. Hi, Peter.
Hey, Brad, how are you?
In a little while.
Long time. Long time.
Yep. Everybody, thank you very much. So I don't know if I should. I don't have should I share a screen, or do you have the drawings, or do you want me to just describe what it's about? Oh, there we go.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, so what you're looking at here is the cover sheet. It's a very short set of drawings, as you know. And what we went in, I started working on this with the client about almost a year ago. And then the zoning issue came up, and it was made apparent that waiting for that to be approved would be a much smoother path with an area variance, a fairly minor area variance request rather than a use variance. So there was a delay in just the overall application. But here we are, and it's I think a very appropriate two-unit building in a zone that has a lot of residential behind it and adjacent to it. In fact, two-unit buildings, properties to either side that I imagine predated the zoning that disallowed or discouraged the multi-dwelling unit developments. What you see on the site plan is essentially the new plan for the ground floor the proposed plan, which, the next step of which would be to develop construction documents for the building department. There's an existing single bay garage at the back, kind of tucked right up. And we're not proposing any work there. There's ample parking, as you can also see on the site plan in the lower left, the lower right part of the sheet. So there's 2 parking spaces for each of the units, upstairs and downstairs units. And it's not quite on the screen there, but there's an additional guest. There you go. Guest parking as well. So even though it's a very compact site and property, it really could adequately accommodate 2 units comfortably, and I think consistent with what's happening at the contiguous lots. There are some photographs included on both the first and second sheets, so that it's a very straightforward, Dutch gambrel, mid-century, maybe 19. The tenant that owned the building and had a clinic downstairs added an ADA accessible ramp, which you see, which would be removed, as it really doesn't. It's not required for what we're proposing, and I think will be an enhancement once it's gone. It'll allow for better vegetation and landscaping, and not be this kind of appurtenance that extends all the way to the sidewalk. So that'll be an improvement, I think. There is a door that goes nowhere right now next to the driveway, which is right against the northern edge of the property. That door will be removed and replaced with a similar single hung type of window with lights to match. Exactly. Thank you. So that's really the extent of the exterior changes. Otherwise, you're looking at what it's going. Mr.
Will, you may need to turn off your
ground
video.
floor to convert the.
You may need to turn off your video. You keep freezing. Sometimes
I'm sorry.
Sometimes that helps. I hate to not see you, but you keep
Turn
freezing.
off the video. Yeah.
Yeah,
Sure.
that will usually help.
Okay. Sorry.
I know it's just sometimes internet, Wi-Fi, whatever.
Yeah, I get that announcement on my screen every so often, unfortunately. So it's our reality, I suppose, our virtual reality. So yeah, all the improvements are in the ground floor. We'll put a full kitchen in, a full bath, a single bedroom, because right now it's just these tiny, clinic exam rooms and a reception area. So there needs to be some interior improvements there. And at the second level, we will be modifying it. So right now, we're well aware that we need to reduce that to be consistent with the wastewater, the volume, and what was represented. It was my original understanding, because the second floor was never something that I even looked at. I was just looking at the first floor. So when I was made aware of that, we suggested that be turned into like a dining area, living portion at the whole front end of the house. So that will be a 1-bedroom unit, as it's shown now in the plans. Other than that, I don't know. I mean, I guess I'll just stop there and answer any questions if any members have them.
We first go to Ms. Franson, our planner. Bonnie, comments?
Hi, so I think in Tad's notes, she had covered the fact that this is in the town core zoning district, that the sub area allows 2-family dwellings. To really understand the process for this application, it really is embodied in Local Law 1 of 2020. And in particular, and I'm sure Victoria will touch upon this, that this is a change in use of lawfully existing building from a non-residential use to a residential use. And so what's being reviewed here from the planning board's perspective is the town architectural patterns, the town core architectural patterns. And the planning board can waive the requirements set forth in that section if you determine that they're not relevant or where waiver would not be detrimental to the objectives of the town core code provisions. So in general, in reviewing this application, what's really being reviewed is the design and the aesthetics of this particular project. I think in terms of some of the comments that we had and their questions really for the planning board's consideration, and we'll memorialize this ultimately in a memo, but in discussing this, we knew they had to go to the ZBA, so it was not timely to prepare something. But as far as some comments, should the meets and bounds be transferred onto the site plan, just to ensure that everything's being shown accurately in terms of the building and the relationship of parking, et cetera. There was a question with regard to egress, ingress, as far as the removal of the door and getting down into the basement and whether everything would meet code requirements.
I'm sorry, which door are you referring to?
The side door that's being removed.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so yeah, and there are doors both in the front end and the back end. So that was actually a third door.
So I think we were looking to, is it the one unit gets access to the basement then, not the other unit? Again, questions about access in general to the basement. And with the removal of that door, is the basement livable, sort of what's going on in the basement? And how
No,
does the door affect it from fire code perspective?
Yeah, it is not a livable basement. Not habitable.
Okay. Some members had questions about the railing and replacement, what was being envisioned. Also, getting back to the window, is that going to be multi-pane? Is that going to be a single pane window? Sort of what's being installed where that former door is to be removed? And then are you just going to replace the siding in kind, as a patch up, or is sort of the side going to be replaced in terms of the siding?
Thank you, Bonnie. Mr. Will, when we had an agenda meeting to discuss this with a non-quorum group, those were the questions. Normally we would see a detail of the new landing, railing, and steps. We would also see a detail, whether it's just typical of what the window is going to replace that door. And I believe what Ms. Franson was discussing was, if that door leads to the basement, are there other ways that the tenants can access the basement if they need to? We're not sure. When I drove by and looked at that door, and I don't know how that got installed in the first place. You have to make a leap up to get to it. There's no steps up. It's kind of an odd thing. But at any rate, those would normally be shown as part of the elevations that we see, or what the replacements would be. And then to go back to what Ms. Franson was first talking about, this is amongst the first times that the board is actually looking at the new town core zoning, which is very much form-based. There is a form for two families, but as Bonnie said, we can waive the architectural standards for now because, at least to me, it doesn't appear as though what they're proposing is big enough in terms of the changes to say, well, then let's make sure it conforms to this new architectural style that's been established by the town board to follow for two families. Because we're really talking about what are still essentially minor changes to the site. And I also should have added that Mr. Will had already contacted the Dutchess County Department of Health. We do have a letter from Mr. Teed, who reviews for Hyde Park, saying that this is adequate septic for the 2 one-bedroom apartments, which is why Mr. Will discussed changing the top floor to a one-bedroom. We also, this in discussion, this appears to be a type 2 action. Nonetheless, it being site plan, we would be required to refer this to DC planning down the line. Anything else, Bonnie?
No, that was it. And thank you for touching upon seeker. We did discuss that because this is a conversion under the new type 2 actions. This would fall under the type 2 criteria.
Thank you. Ms. Polidoro, comments?
you've both covered everything I could have said at this point, so.
Didn't mean to steal your thunder. Thank
No,
you.
it's
Mr. Sotero,
fine.
Mr. Sotero, any comments? I don't believe you even really looked at this. There doesn't seem to be a lot of stormwater.
You covered it actually, when you had mentioned about that, you got a letter from the Board of Health, or they got a letter from the Board of Health. So that was my only question. So we're good.
Thank you. Let me start to my virtual left. Ms. Weiser, comments?
Hi there. So I agree. I think that the changes that are being planned are very, very minor. So I can see waiving in extreme adherence to the architectural standards.
Thank you. Anything else?
Nope.
Mr. Pickett?
Yes, I originally had three issues, or three concerns. They were the septic versus the bedrooms, the driveway and parking with additional cars from the being 2 units, and the front walkway and the ADA, kind of an ugly ramp, and those have all been addressed. So I'll waive the, I want to waive the architectural standards, and off we go.
Thank you for weighing in on that, Brent. Ms. Wasser?
Sorry, it took me a minute to unmute. No, I agree with all the comments that have been brought up already by Bonnie and my colleagues.
Thank you. That's fast. Vice Chair Dexter?
I also agree with previous comments. And I had a question though. How do you get to the second floor?
That's off of the, if you look at the,
I see stairs, but I don't see, it looks like.
yeah, the plan you're looking at is the second floor. So you would walk down that dog leg stairs. You walk down 4 risers to a landing where the window is on the north wall, and then you would turn to your right and you go. Whoever is doing the scrolling. There you go. So you'll see that there's an entry foyer down there, and you walk out to that kind of enclosed porch in the front.
Thank you.
Sure.
If you look, it gives you kind of that funky wall in the bathroom there.
Yeah. Okay. I didn't realize that I was staring at that top one thinking it was the first floor.
Yeah. A little tricky.
Thank you. Mr. Oliver?
I have nothing new to add. Going last on, or close to last on the list is kind of difficult with coming up with new ideas after having such great colleagues. So no, nothing new. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll start to my virtual right next time so you guys can lead. Mr. Napoli, any comments?
I agree with everyone. I look forward also to seeing the drawings for the railing and the steps. And I also agree we should, that this is too minor to demand architectural design standards.
Okay, Mr. Will, I believe I can summarize by saying that you heard the same thing basically from everybody, that we're all willing to waive the standards because the changes envisioned are fairly minor in terms of architectural structure. You're willing to provide the details for the side window, as well as for the changes that you're proposing for the landing, railing, and steps. I should have asked, do you intend on leaving, I take it the porch will remain enclosed because that's now an entranceway for 2 people. It's like a vestibule now.
Yeah, it's a good weather resistant and just a good place to access both units from. So we weren't proposing any changes there.
Thank you.
I encourage all the board members to actually go and look at the architectural standards for this project, just to get used to doing it. Because, the form of the building itself is consistent. It is a question of changing windows.
Yeah, there are examples there's the Dutch. It's definitely one of the architectural styles we are permitted to have.
Could we be directed to to be able to see that. I'm not sure it's been a
Problem
while.
so the problem is that you have to look on the town website and look up local law 1 because it hasn't been codified. You cannot go to E-code and find it.
It
They
is
haven't
on
updated
general
it yet.
code.
It
It's
is?
under the new law section. So it
Oh,
hasn't
okay.
been codified, but you can click on the PDF of the document.
And it starts on page 75, so you'll find it. It's on PDF page 75.
Thank you. Without having to go through the first 74, thank you, Anne. You just gave a nice shortcut. At any rate, so Mr. Will, if you can just make some minor changes to show us the details, then when you're ready to submit them, we can also refer them to DC Planning and go ahead and by resolution type the action. There we go. Where is it? Town core, local law C. I thought it was local law 1. Sorry.
It is local law 1. You have to go to a different place to find it, Neil.
If you go to the town code, to the new code section on the left, it's going to be local law 1 of 2020.
Now in the blue section on the left, I think there's more.
Yep, town code.
Recently adopted laws.
Going.
Right.
One
No,
more. There
town
you go.
code, down
Town
one
code.
more.
One more down. One more down.
There you
There
go,
it is,
town
there it
code,
is.
there you go.
And then it'll come up local law 1.
No, then you have to click on
Click on the
town
town
code
code.
link.
Well, I did whatever Cynthia told me to do today and it worked beautifully.
There. New laws
new
on the
laws.
left.
Yep.
There it is.
Oh, there it is.
Yes,
Oh, okay.
Local law
1 of
1.
2020.
Yep.
Okay.
And
Thank you.
And then page 75, you said.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can also access it if you go straight to the zoning up at the top of the beginning of has the local laws that have been adopted that affect the zoning chapter.
It's PDF number 75.
I'm dizzy.
These
That's
numbers,
for the-
these numbers won't correlate.
Well,
No, it
you
won't.
get the idea.
right, you know how to find it now.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
So just a note, when you do see the forms that are set up, they do show different kinds of windows. They tend to be mullioned because this is supposed to be a traditional architecture area. These are, just double hung, but I think that's acceptable. They're a replacement, obviously, to probably what was first put in there at the time. I shouldn't say obviously. Generally speaking, I'm going to guess that. But at any rate, Mr. Will, do you have any questions for us?
No, it sounds very straightforward. I'll get those two detail drawings and elevation completed for you, and I should have those to you by Monday or so.
Thank you. Then if that's the case, then I think we can go ahead and at the next meeting, probably refer this to DC Planning and type the action. So we'll put a placeholder on it, and you're welcome to attend, Mr. Will, but you don't have to. We can send you the resolution in advance and you can make up your mind. I hope Mr. Will can hear me. He may still be having internet issues.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't know if you heard, I was just asking when the next DC meeting is scheduled for.
So our next meeting would be March the
Third.
3rd, I believe. Yes.
Oh,
So
Brad, in this county, we don't have a planning board that reviews these. Once we send it to the department will evaluate it immediately. So we don't have to make a particular cutoff date.
Oh,
I see.
right.
Thank you.
Actually, and Mr. Will, we do have there is a county planning board. I serve on it, but it does not review projects. That's up to the staff of the Department of Planning and Economic Development.
I see. Thank you.
You're welcome. And it was nice to meet, for me, it was nice to meet you. We look forward to working with you and getting this application through. Good luck with the ZBA. There you are.
Just here to say goodbye and thank you all very much for your time. I really appreciate it. I know Sal appreciates it too.
Well, please thank Mr.
Thank
DODIC
him.
for his patience. This was sort of a difficult birth process, so to speak, but we're finally there.
Take care, Brad.
Bye.
Good to see you.
Bye.
He's
Thank
a
you.
great philosopher. Oh, sorry. He has a philosophical approach to this, so he's been a joy to work with. Really.
That's great to hear. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is a request for a waiver of site plan approval for Salvatore. This is located at 52 Fleur Lane. For those of us who've been here for a while, this is the former home of Hillary and Kevin Van Nostrand. It's what they call a Baker house, I believe, with the
Built.
Baker built. That's right, with the dental and the signature sort of stone front. Ms. Moss has recommended the waiver. This is in the area, scenic area of statewide significance, but it's not directly visible from the river or the two historic sites because it's located in the back and the rear. Anybody have any questions? I believe this Vice Chair Dexter will introduce this resolution.
Thank you. Site plan waiver, Town Code Section 108-9.4C2, Resolution number 2021-04. Whereas, now therefore be it resolved that the Town of Hyde Park Planning Board hereby waives site plan requirements for the file entitled Salvatore regarding the specific request as received February 8th, 2021, and as identified in the building permit application dated January 29th, 2021 for this project.
Second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
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 Motion is unanimously carried. Thank you. And what we welcome, by the way, the Salvatores, they're new residents to the town, I understand it, and it's great to have new people coming in and putting in solar panels immediately. Progressive for us. I'm going to introduce Resolution 21-B, which is a motion to release escrow. This is for Athanas West, the solar farm that was proposed there. They have formally withdrawn the application. You'll recall this was the one that was basically pretty much put into a wetland area. And it was interesting to see. None of us ever knew how the DEC would respond because the governor has very ambitious goals for 2030 in which to reduce our reliance on carbon emissions. And yet, and the DEC is part of that, and yet they did not like the idea of driving pylons down into the water itself, not just the adjacent area, but in the wetlands. So I think that they wisely chose to withdraw this application. As a reminder, the same firm had Athanas East, and that's proceeding along, as well as Cream Street, which both are proceeding along. The release of escrow involves an engineer of $2,757, attorney of $7,600 for a total of $10,357.
I second that.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously, which brings us to an adjournment. And Mr. Sotero, you were right, 43 minutes. Nice short meeting. Making a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion. Chris Oliver.
I'll second the motion. Brent Pickett.
All in favor, please raise your hand. Say aye.
Aye.
That's all 7 of us. Thank you. Thank you, Councilman Krupnik, as always, for directing us. And thank you to the Town Board and Supervisor Rohr for providing the resources to do this. We'll see you all on March 3rd, if not before. Take care.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Guys.
Bye.
Thank you, Neil.